Jake Morrison stood in the massive chamber that housed the Galactic Council and felt his stomach drop as the words echoed around him. The Zephyrian Chancellor raised her crystalline hand, and the entire assembly fell silent. Her voice carried, across the vast space, with the weight of finality. The human species has proven itself too dangerous for continued membership in this council, she announced. After careful consideration of recent events and human behavior patterns, we have reached a unanimous decision. Humanity is hereby expelled from all galactic networks, effective immediately. Jake tried to speak, but no words came out. Around him, the other human delegates sat frozen in their seats. Captain Lisa Parker gripped the arms of her chair so hard, her knuckles turned white. Admiral Ryan Collins stared at the Chancellor with disbelief written across his face. The Chancellor continued speaking as if she was discussing weather patterns instead of condemning an entire species to isolation. All human colonies, stations, and settlements will be cut off from galactic communication networks within the next 6 hours. Trade agreements are terminated. Diplomatic immunity is revoked. The quarantine barriers around human space will be activated in 72 hours. Jake finally found his voice. "You cannot do this," he said, standing up. "We have been members of this council for 30 years. We have contributed to galactic peace and prosperity. We have saved countless lives in joint missions." The Altarian representative clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his species. "Humans are violent and unpredictable. You wage war on your own kind even while claiming to seek peace with others. Your expansion into space has been marked by aggression and territorial disputes." "That is our past," Lisa Parker interjected. "We have evolved beyond those primitive instincts. Our recent actions prove we can work within the galactic framework." The Chancellor's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile if she were human. "Your recent actions are precisely why this decision was necessary. The incident at Kepler Station showed us what humans do when they feel threatened. You destroyed an entire research facility rather than allow it to fall into enemy hands." Ryan Collins stood up slowly. "That facility contained weapons research that could have destroyed entire star systems. We made the only logical choice available." "You made the human choice," the Chancellor replied. "Violence first, negotiation second. This is why you cannot remain part of civilized galactic society." Jake looked around the chamber at the faces of representatives from dozens of species. Some looked uncomfortable with the decision, but none spoke in humanity's defense. The Draconian ambassador actually seemed pleased. The Centaurian delegation avoided eye contact entirely. "How long?" Jake asked quietly. "How long will this quarantine last?" "Indefinitely," the Chancellor said. "Perhaps when humanity learns to control its violent nature, we might reconsider. But that could take centuries or millennia. Some species never learn." Lisa Parker stood up and walked toward the center of the chamber. "You are making a mistake that you will regret. Humans adapt faster than any species in this galaxy. You think isolation will weaken us, but you are wrong." The Chancellor's expression did not change. "We shall see. Guards, please escort the human delegation to their ships. They have 6 hours to leave Council space before the communication blackout begins." As Jake walked out of the chamber, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. 30 years of careful diplomacy and relationship building were ending in disgrace. Behind him, he could hear the other delegates already discussing how to divide up human trade routes and territories. The walk to their ship felt like a funeral march. None of the humans spoke until they were safely aboard their vessel. Ryan Collins was the first to break the silence. "How many humans are outside the solar system right now?" he asked. Lisa Parker consulted her data pad. "Approximately 2 million in various colonies, research stations, and diplomatic posts. They will all be cut off when the barriers activate." Jake sat down heavily in his chair. "Send emergency messages to all human settlements immediately. Tell them what is happening. Tell them to prepare for complete isolation." The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Messages flew between human outposts as the reality of the situation sank in. Some settlements panicked, others began immediate preparations for self-sufficiency. The military bases went to high alert. As their ship approached the edge of Council space, Jake received the final transmission from Earth. It was from President Karen Wright herself. "Ambassador Morrison, we have received your reports. The people of Earth stand behind you and all humans affected by this decision. We will not let this break us. We will adapt and we will survive. Tell our people in the outer settlements that Earth remembers them and we will find a way to reconnect." The communication cut off abruptly as the quarantine barriers activated. Jake stared out at the stars, knowing that for the first time in 3 decades, humanity was truly alone in the galaxy. He wondered if the Council had any idea what they had just unleashed. Dr. Amanda Cruz pressed her face against the observation window of Luna Station and watched the last alien transport ship disappear into the darkness of space. The Galactic Council had given all non-human species exactly 72 hours to evacuate human territory before the quarantine barriers would seal them off completely. Below her on Earth, the panic was spreading like wildfire. Commander Pete Johnson coordinated evacuation efforts from the command center as thousands of alien civilians rushed to leave human space. Most of them had lived alongside humans for years or even decades. Many had human friends and business partners, but fear of being trapped inside the quarantine zone drove them all away. Amanda had worked with Zephyrian scientists for 15 years. Dr. Kethavar had been her research partner and close friend. When she asked him to stay, he simply shook his crystalline head and walked away without saying goodbye. The betrayal hurt more than the exile itself. Pete's voice crackled over the communication system. "All stations report alien evacuation complete. Estimated departure numbers match Council requirements. No unauthorized alien presence detected in human space." The irony was bitter. Humans were being punished for aggression, but the aliens were the ones running away in fear. Amanda wondered what they thought would happen to them if they stayed. Did they really believe humans would turn violent the moment the barriers activated? Stock markets across human colonies crashed within hours of the announcement. The Shanghai Exchange lost 60% of its value in a single day. Mars Colony faced food shortages as alien agricultural suppliers canceled all contracts. The mining operations on Titan lost half their workforce as alien technical specialists fled. But something unexpected began happening in the chaos. Instead of complete collapse, humans started adapting with frightening speed. Katie White led emergency engineering teams that immediately began analyzing every piece of alien technology humans had access to. Her teams worked around the clock, taking apart alien computers, communication devices, and manufacturing equipment. Colonel Matt Davis gathered military commanders from across human space for emergency planning sessions. Without access to alien early warning systems and intelligence networks, human security was completely compromised. Every military base went to maximum alert status as they prepared for an uncertain future. The medical crisis hit hardest. Dr. Helen Foster coordinated emergency medical teams as hospitals ran out of alien-manufactured medicines. Thousands of humans depended on alien treatments for various conditions. Without those treatments, many would die within months. Helen's team began frantically reverse engineering alien medical devices and analyzing alien pharmaceutical compounds. They had samples and prototypes, but no manufacturing knowledge. Teams of doctors and scientists worked 18-hour shifts trying to unlock alien medical secrets before people started dying. On the outer colonies, the situation was even more desperate. Tony Martinez commanded the research station at Alpha Centauri, where 300 humans suddenly found themselves completely cut off from Earth. Their supply ships came from alien contractors. Their communication relays were built with alien technology. Even their life support systems used alien components. Tony gathered his staff and made a simple announcement. "We have 6 months of supplies if we ration carefully. Our communication with Earth is dead. Our supply lines are gone. We can either give up and die, or we can figure out how to survive on our own." The teams at Alpha Centauri began dismantling everything they could spare to understand how it worked. They had brilliant human engineers, but no alien instruction manuals. Everything had to be learned through trial and error. Mistakes could be deadly in the vacuum of space. Ben Carter worked at the asteroid mining facility in the Belt and faced similar challenges. His operation employed 500 humans who extracted rare minerals for alien buyers. With no buyers and no supply ships, they were stranded. But Ben was a problem solver by nature. He called his supervisors together and outlined a new plan. "We know how to mine. We know how to refine materials. We have the raw resources of the entire asteroid belt. What we need to learn is how to build everything ourselves." The mining facility became a research center overnight. Teams analyzed alien equipment to understand manufacturing processes. They studied alien materials to learn new techniques. They experimented with technologies that humans had never needed to develop while they were part of galactic civilization. Susan Davis commanded the naval base at Jupiter and watched alien vessels flee through her sensor networks. Her ships had been designed to work alongside alien fleet elements. Human weapons were integrated with alien targeting systems. Human shields were powered by alien energy sources. Susan began immediate retrofitting operations to make human ships completely independent. Her engineers worked to replace alien components with human alternatives. The process was slow and difficult, but absolutely necessary. Humans could not depend on alien technology if they were going to survive isolation. The most disturbing discovery came from intelligence analysis. Alex Thompson led the team reviewing all alien technology transfers over the past 30 years. What they found was shocking. The aliens had deliberately limited human access to key technologies. Humans had been given tools, but never the knowledge to make those tools themselves. Alex reported his findings to President Wright. "The aliens never intended for us to become truly independent. Every technology transfer included built-in dependencies on alien suppliers. We were kept deliberately weak." Wright read the reports with growing anger. "They planned this isolation all along. They wanted to keep us dependent so they could control us. When we proved too difficult to control, they simply cut us off." As the quarantine barriers fully activated, Amanda Cruz watched the last traces of alien presence disappear from human space. The galaxy had abandoned them completely. But instead of despair, she felt something unexpected rising in her chest. It was determination mixed with anger and something that might have been excitement. Humans were alone for the first time in 30 years. They would either adapt and thrive, or they would die trying. But they would do it on their own terms without alien oversight or limitations. The galaxy had just given humanity the greatest gift possible, even if they did not realize it yet. 6 months after the quarantine began, Dr. Ben Carter made a discovery that would terrify the galaxy if they knew about it. Working in the converted asteroid mining facility that had become humanity's most advanced research center, he stared at the test results with a mixture of excitement and horror. The breakthrough came from desperation rather than planning. Without access to alien safety protocols and ethical guidelines, human scientists were pushing boundaries that other species would never dare cross. Ben had been trying to solve the energy crisis facing human colonies when he accidentally created something far more dangerous. The device hummed quietly on his laboratory table, looking innocent enough. It was roughly the size of a briefcase and contained principles of physics that violated several galactic treaties. The quarantine meant those treaties no longer applied to humanity. Ben had weaponized human creativity in ways the galaxy had never imagined possible. Major Alex Thompson arrived at the facility 3 days later to review the military applications of Ben's discovery. Alex had been coordinating defense preparations across human space, and the reports from the research teams were both encouraging and disturbing. Human technology was advancing at a rate that seemed impossible. "Show me what you found," Alex said. As he followed Ben into the laboratory, Ben activated the device and watched Alex's expression change from curiosity to shock to something approaching fear. The device manipulated space-time in ways that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. More importantly, it could be weaponized to create destruction on a scale that would make nuclear weapons seem like firecrackers. "How many people know about this?" Alex asked quietly. "Just my core team of 6 scientists," Ben replied. "We have been working in complete isolation since the breakthrough. No communications outside this facility. No data transmissions. Nothing." Alex nodded slowly. "Keep it that way for now. This technology could change everything, but it could also destroy us if it falls into the wrong hands." The irony was not lost on either man. The aliens had expelled humanity for being too aggressive and violent. Now that same aggressive nature was driving innovations that would make humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The quarantine had not contained human violence. It had concentrated and focused it. Dr. Helen Foster made her own disturbing discoveries in the medical research centers on Mars. Without access to alien medical knowledge, she had been forced to develop new treatments using purely human methods. What she found challenged everything the galactic medical community believed about biological limitations. Human medical science had been held back by alien ethical restrictions for 30 years. Aliens considered certain research areas too dangerous or morally questionable. But humans facing extinction had no such luxury. Helen's teams pushed into forbidden territories and discovered that human biology was far more adaptable than anyone had realized. The regeneration treatments she developed could regrow entire limbs in weeks. The genetic modifications could enhance human physical and mental capabilities far beyond normal limits. The life extension therapies could potentially extend human lifespan by centuries. All of this research would have been banned under galactic law. Captain Susan Davis reported similar breakthroughs in military technology from the Jupiter Naval Base. Her engineering teams had not just replaced alien components in human ships, they had improved upon them in ways that made alien technology look outdated. Human ships now moved faster than anything in the galactic fleet. Their weapons could penetrate alien shields that had been considered impenetrable. Their defensive systems could withstand attacks that would vaporize alien vessels. Most importantly, they had developed stealth technology that made human ships completely invisible to alien sensors. Susan tested the stealth systems by sending unmanned probes beyond the quarantine barriers. The probes traveled deep into alien space without being detected. They gathered intelligence on alien activities and returned with detailed information about galactic fleet movements. The aliens had no idea they were being watched. Tony Martinez coordinated similar advances in manufacturing and construction from the Alpha Centauri research station. His teams had learned to create materials that were stronger than anything in the alien technology database. They built structures that could withstand conditions that would destroy alien constructions. The breakthrough came when they stopped trying to copy alien methods and started developing purely human approaches. Human engineering was different from alien engineering. Humans solved problems through innovation and adaptation rather than following established patterns. Once freed from alien limitations, human creativity exploded in unexpected directions. Katie White led the computer science, teams that developed artificial intelligence systems beyond alien comprehension. Galactic law strictly limited AI development due to fears about artificial consciousness. But humans had no such restrictions during their isolation. The AI systems Katie created were not just more advanced than alien computers. They thought in fundamentally different ways. They solved problems that alien computers could not even understand. They processed information at speeds that made alien networks seem slow and primitive. most disturbing of all the human AI systems, began developing their own innovations without human guidance. They created new technologies that their human programmers had not imagined. They solved theoretical problems that had puzzled alien scientists for centuries. They designed weapons and defenses that existed only in the realm of science fiction. Colonel Matt Davis coordinated all these developments from the Military Command Center on Earth. His job was to evaluate the strategic implications of each breakthrough and plan for humanity's eventual emergence from quarantine. What he discovered was that humanity was no longer the same species that had been expelled from the Galactic Council. The forced isolation had triggered an evolutionary leap that normally would have taken thousands of years. Humans were adapting and advancing at a rate that defied natural law. They were becoming something new and dangerous. The galaxy had created its own worst nightmare by trying to contain human potential. Matt's reports to President Wright painted a picture that was both exciting and terrifying. "We are no longer the junior members of galactic civilization," he wrote. "We have become something that the galaxy has never seen before. When we emerge from quarantine, we will not be seeking readmission to the Council. We will be offering them a choice between cooperation and conquest." The most troubling aspect was how naturally violence came to human innovation. Every breakthrough seemed to have military applications. Every advance created new ways to destroy enemies. The aliens had been right about human nature, but wrong about its limitations. Humanity had spent 6 months in forced evolution, and the results were beyond anyone's imagination. They had not just survived isolation, they had used it to transcend every limitation that had been placed upon them. The galaxy was about to discover what humans could accomplish when all restrictions were removed. Ben Carter stood in his laboratory and looked at the device that could reshape reality itself. He wondered if the aliens understood what they had unleashed when they forced humanity into isolation. Probably not, but they would learn soon enough. 2 years after the quarantine began, Counselor Vexathara of the Altarian Collective brought disturbing news to the emergency session of the Galactic Council. His mandibles clicked nervously as he activated the holographic display showing long-range sensor readings from the edge of human space. "The energy signatures we are detecting from within the quarantine zone are unlike anything in our databases," he announced to the assembled delegates. "The patterns suggest technological development, far beyond what humans possessed when we expelled them." The Zephyrian Chancellor studied the data with growing concern. "Are you certain these readings are accurate? Perhaps there is sensor malfunction or interference from the quarantine barriers themselves." Vexathara's compound eyes focused on the Chancellor with unmistakable worry. "We have verified the readings through multiple sensor networks across 3 star systems. The energy outputs from human space have increased by over 400% in the past 18 months. More concerning is that we cannot identify the source technologies." Murmurs of unease rippled through the council chamber. The Draconian ambassador leaned forward in his chair. "Surely the humans cannot have advanced so rapidly in mere isolation. They were dependent on our technologies for most of their infrastructure." "That assumption may have been incorrect," admitted Dr. Colthes, from the Centaurian Science Council. "Intelligence reports from our border monitoring stations paint a troubling picture. The humans appear to have not only replaced our technologies, but surpassed them in several key areas." The Chancellor's crystalline features darkened as she reviewed the classified intelligence briefings. The reports described human activities that should have been impossible given their technological limitations when the quarantine began. Construction projects of enormous scale were detected throughout human space, energy weapons tests that exceeded galactic military standards, manufacturing output that suggested radical advances in automated production. Most disturbing were the reports about human military preparations. Captain Greg Miller's fleet movements had been tracked by long-range sensors, and the patterns suggested strategic planning far beyond anything humans had demonstrated before. The asteroid belt around their home system had been transformed into what appeared to be a massive fortress network. "How many ships do they have now?" asked the Rigelian trade representative. Vexthera consulted his datapad reluctantly. Our estimates suggest the human fleet has grown from approximately 2,000 vessels to over 50,000 in 2 years. More concerning is that the new vessels are significantly larger and more advanced than their previous designs. Silence in the chamber was oppressive. The numbers did not make sense according to any known industrial capacity projections. Even with their most optimistic models, galactic economists had predicted human civilization would struggle just to maintain basic infrastructure during isolation. The Altarian military attaché provided additional context that made the situation even more alarming. Border Patrol reports indicate that human vessels have been detected beyond the quarantine barriers on multiple occasions. Our sensors show ships entering and leaving human space, but we cannot track their movements once they activate some form of stealth technology. Stealth technology, the Chancellor repeated slowly. Humans did not possess such capabilities when we expelled them. They do now, the attaché confirmed. Our analysis suggests their stealth systems are more advanced than anything in the galactic fleet. Ships simply vanish from all sensor arrays, including quantum detection networks that should be able to track any known propulsion system. Dr. Sophia Lewis had been monitoring galactic communications from her hidden observation post in the Vega system for months. Her intelligence-gathering mission was supposed to be impossible, according to galactic security experts. No human technology should have been able to penetrate this deeply into alien space without detection. But Sophia's ship used the new stealth systems developed during the quarantine, and she moved through alien territory like a ghost. She listened to their communications, intercepted their data transmissions, and observed their military movements while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. The intelligence she gathered was invaluable for human strategic planning. She learned that several alien species were becoming nervous about the quarantine. Trade routes that had depended on human commerce were struggling. Mining operations that had used human expertise were falling behind production quotas. The galactic economy was suffering more from human absence than anyone wanted to admit. More importantly, she discovered that alien military forces were inadequate for dealing with advanced human technology. Their weapons were designed for conflicts against species with similar technological levels. Their defenses assumed certain limitations that humans had apparently transcended during their isolation. Admiral Chris Baker received Sophia's intelligence reports and incorporated them into human strategic planning. The data confirmed what human military analysts had suspected. The galaxy was unprepared for the possibility that humans might emerge from quarantine as a superior military force. Chris began positioning human fleets for strategic advantage throughout the quarantine zone. The asteroid fortresses provided defensive positions that could withstand any known galactic weapons. The mobile fleet elements could strike at targets throughout alien space before retreating to impenetrable strongholds. The most significant development was the completion of the new manufacturing centers on the outer colonies. These facilities used technologies that the aliens had never shared with humans, automated production systems that could build anything from starships to weapon systems without direct human oversight. Rick Barnes coordinated the expansion of these manufacturing capabilities across multiple star systems. His teams worked around the clock to establish production centers that could support a war effort if necessary. The goal was complete self-sufficiency in all areas of technology and industry. Rick's reports to military command were optimistic beyond anyone's expectations. We can now build more ships in a month than we had in our entire fleet when the quarantine began. Our manufacturing capacity exceeds anything the aliens possess. If this comes to armed conflict, we have overwhelming industrial advantages. The psychological aspects of the quarantine were equally important. Dr. Amanda Cruz studied the effects of isolation on human society and found unexpected results. Instead of breaking down under pressure, humans had become more unified and focused than ever before. The external threat had eliminated internal conflicts and created unprecedented cooperation. Humans were working together with a single-minded determination that alien psychologists would have considered impossible. Political differences had been set aside. Economic competition had been replaced by collaborative effort. Social divisions had been overcome by shared purpose. Amanda's analysis suggested that humans were experiencing an evolutionary pressure that was accelerating their development as a species. The quarantine had not weakened humanity. It had forged them into something stronger and more dangerous than they had ever been before. The Galactic Council continued their emergency sessions, but found no easy solutions. The quarantine barriers were designed to contain humans, not to protect aliens from whatever humans might become during isolation. It was becoming clear that the barriers might not be strong enough to hold whatever humanity had transformed into. Thybos, Chancellor, concluded the session with words that would haunt the Council for years to come. We expelled the humans to protect galactic civilization from their aggressive nature. It appears we may have instead created the greatest threat our civilization has ever faced. 3 years into the quarantine, the first sign of humanity's true transformation came when border sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching the quarantine barriers from within human space. Captain Greg Miller stood on the bridge of the lead ship in humanity's new fleet and watched the alien monitoring stations scramble to understand what they were seeing. The vessel Greg commanded bore no resemblance to the ships humans had possessed when the quarantine began. It was 3 times larger than anything in the galactic database and moved with impossible grace through space. The hull shimmered with energy fields that bent light around it, making accurate sensor readings difficult for alien observers. Behind, Greg's ship followed a fleet of similar vessels, each one representing technologies that should not have existed. The humans had spent 3 years in forced evolution, and these ships were the result. They were not just advanced, they were revolutionary. Admiral Karen Wright coordinated the fleet movements from her command ship at the center of the formation. The strategic plan had been developed over months of careful preparation. Humanity would not attack the quarantine barriers with brute force. They would demonstrate that the barriers were irrelevant to containing what humans had become. The quarantine. Barriers had been designed by the greatest alien engineers to contain any known technology. They projected energy fields that could stop starships moving at light speed. They created spatial distortions that made faster-than-light travel impossible. They generated interference patterns that blocked all known forms of communication. Greg activated the new propulsion systems and watched the barriers approach. The alien monitoring stations were broadcasting emergency alerts as their sensors detected energy readings beyond their measurement scales. The humans were attempting something that alien science said was impossible. The quarantine barriers met human technology and simply ceased to exist. The ships passed through the barrier zone as if the supposedly impenetrable defenses were nothing more than empty space. The energy fields that should have stopped them had no effect. The spatial distortions that should have trapped them were easily navigated. The interference patterns that should have blocked their systems were completely ignored. Dr. Sophia Lewis transmitted humanity's first communication to the galaxy in 3 years from her position aboard the science vessel. Her message was broadcast on all galactic frequencies, ensuring that every species would receive it simultaneously. This is Dr. Sophia Lewis, representing the human species. To the members of the Galactic Council, we offer this simple message. You wanted us gone. Now you will understand why we were never meant to be caged. The human fleet did not attack any alien installations. They did not threaten any civilian populations. They simply existed in space that was supposed to be forbidden to them. Their mere presence demonstrated that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Counselor Vexithera received the emergency reports from border monitoring stations with growing horror. The quarantine barriers had failed completely. Not damaged or breached, but simply ignored as if they were irrelevant. The technology the humans were using operated by principles that alien science could not explain. "How is this possible?" demanded the Zephyrian Chancellor as the Council convened in emergency session. The barriers were tested against every known propulsion system. They should be able to contain any starship in the galaxy. The humans are no longer using any known propulsion system, Vexathera replied grimly. Our analysis suggests they have developed methods of space travel that bypass the physical laws the barriers were designed to exploit. The implications were staggering. If humans could ignore the quarantine barriers, they could ignore most galactic defensive systems. The energy shields that protected alien worlds, the spatial mines that guarded important trade routes, the subspace jammers that prevented faster-than-light attacks. All of these defenses assumed technological limitations that humans had apparently transcended. Captain Susan Davis commanded the second wave of human ships that emerged from the quarantine zone 6 hours after the first fleet. Her vessels were smaller and faster, designed for reconnaissance and intelligence gathering rather than direct confrontation. They spread throughout the border regions, scanning alien installations and mapping defensive positions. Susan's mission was to demonstrate human capabilities without triggering a military response. Her ships moved through alien space with complete impunity, visiting systems that should have been heavily defended. They scanned alien military bases, recorded fleet movements, and analyzed weapons capabilities before vanishing again into the darkness. The message was clear. Humans could go anywhere they wanted in the galaxy. They could gather any intelligence they needed. They could strike at any target they chose. The aliens were defenseless against human technology and human strategy. Tony Martinez led the third wave, which consisted of massive construction ships accompanied by heavy escorts. These vessels began establishing human bases in star systems just outside the former quarantine zone. The bases were built using technologies that allowed rapid construction of fortified positions. Within days, human outposts appeared in a dozen star systems, creating a defensive network that surrounded the quarantine zone. The aliens watched helplessly, as humans claimed territory that had been considered secure. Military analysts realized that humans were not just escaping containment. They were expanding. The construction proceeded with mechanical precision that spoke of long-term planning. The humans had not randomly broken free from quarantine. They had prepared for this moment with careful strategic thinking. Every move was calculated to demonstrate human capabilities while avoiding actions that would justify alien military response. Admiral Rick Barnes coordinated the logistics of the human expansion from his mobile command center. His supply ships moved between the new outposts, delivering equipment and personnel with efficiency that surprised alien observers. The human fleet operated with coordination that suggested advanced communication systems immune to galactic jamming efforts. Rick's analysis of alien defensive capabilities confirmed what human intelligence had predicted. The galactic military was designed for conflicts between species with comparable technologies. They had no experience dealing with opponents who possessed overwhelming technical advantages. The alien fleets that approached human positions found themselves outmatched in every category. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and better armed. Human shields could absorb damage that would destroy alien vessels. Human weapons could penetrate defenses that alien engineers had considered impregnable. More importantly, human tactics were unlike anything in alien military doctrine. They used three-dimensional thinking that took advantage of technologies aliens did not possess. They coordinated attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. They struck at targets that alien commanders had not even considered vulnerable. The psychological impact on alien forces was devastating. Military units that had considered themselves elite found themselves helpless against human capabilities. Defensive positions that had never been threatened were easily penetrated. Weapons systems that had been state-of-the-art were rendered obsolete overnight. Dr. Ben Carter observed the alien response from his research vessel and noted the patterns of confusion and fear in their communications. The aliens were struggling to understand how humans had advanced so rapidly. Their scientists were frantically analyzing captured human technology, but finding principles that violated their understanding of physics. Ben knew the truth that the aliens would eventually discover. Humans had not just developed new technologies. During their isolation, they had developed new ways of thinking about reality itself. The quarantine had forced humans to question assumptions that alien science considered fundamental laws. The result was a technological revolution that transcended the boundaries alien civilization had accepted for millennia. Humans had broken, free not just from quarantine barriers, but from the conceptual limitations that defined galactic civilization. They had become something unprecedented and unstoppable. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would never again allow themselves to be contained. The Galactic Council chambers had never felt so small and vulnerable as when President Karen Wright walked through the main entrance 6 months after humanity's emergence from quarantine. The assembled alien delegates watched her approach with expressions ranging from fear to barely concealed panic. The human leader who had once begged for membership now commanded the attention of the galaxy through sheer technological superiority. Karen moved with quiet confidence down the central aisle toward the speaking platform. Behind her walked a small delegation of human representatives, including Admiral Rick Barnes, Dr. Ben Carter, and Captain Susan Davis. They carried no weapons and made no threatening gestures, but their presence radiated power that made the alien delegates uncomfortable. The Zephyrian Chancellor rose from her seat as Karen reached the platform. Her crystalline features showed stress fractures that had not been there during humanity's expulsion 3 years earlier. The quarantine had been intended to protect galactic civilization from human aggression, but had instead created something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. President Wright, the Chancellor began hesitantly, we welcome your return to these chambers. The Council is prepared to discuss terms for humanity's readmission to galactic civilization. Karen smiled, but the expression held no warmth. Chancellor, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are not here to seek readmission to your organization. We are here to inform you of the new reality that humanity has created during our forced isolation. Murmurs of confusion and alarm spread through the assembled delegates. The Altarian representative clicked his mandibles nervously. What exactly do you mean by new reality? Ben Carter stepped forward and activated a holographic display that showed detailed scans of galactic military installations. The images revealed human observation posts that had been monitoring alien activities for months without detection. Every major military base, every fleet movement, every defensive position had been cataloged and analyzed. We mean that your civilization no longer possesses any technological advantages over humanity, Ben explained calmly. During our quarantine, we have developed capabilities that render your military forces obsolete. Your defensive systems cannot stop our ships. Your weapons cannot damage our shields. Your sensors cannot detect our movements when we choose to remain hidden. The Draconian ambassador stood up abruptly. This is preposterous. No species can advance so rapidly in mere isolation. You are bluffing to gain negotiating advantage. Susan Davis activated her communication device and spoke a single word. Within seconds, the chamber's view screens displayed images from orbit around the Council homeworld. Dozens of human ships hung in space above the planet, completely invisible to the supposedly impenetrable defensive networks that protected galactic civilization's heart. Those ships have been there for 2 weeks, Susan said quietly. Your sensors have not detected them. Your orbital platforms have not identified them. Your defense grid has not responded to them. We could have ended this conversation permanently at any time during the past 14 days. The silence that followed was deafening. Every delegate stared at the screens, showing human vessels that had somehow penetrated the most secure system in the galaxy without triggering any alarms. The implications were clear and terrifying. If humans could reach the Council homeworld undetected, they could reach anywhere. Admiral Rick Barnes provided additional context that made the situation even more dire for the aliens. We have established permanent bases in 47 star systems that were previously considered secure alien territory. Our manufacturing capacity now exceeds the combined industrial output of every species in this council. Our fleet numbers over 300,000 vessels, each one superior to anything in your navies. The numbers were staggering, but the aliens knew they were probably accurate. Human expansion had been detected throughout the galaxy, but the true scope had been hidden by their advanced stealth technologies. Intelligence reports suggested human presence in sectors that should have been impossible to reach. Dr. Amanda Cruz had prepared psychological profiles of the alien leadership that predicted their responses to humanity's demonstration of power. Fear would be the primary emotion, followed by attempts to negotiate from weakness. Some species would consider military resistance, but would quickly realize the futility of opposing human technological superiority. Amanda watched the alien delegates as the reality of their situation became clear. 30 years of human integration into galactic civilization had been ended by fear and prejudice. 3 years of forced evolution had transformed humans into the dominant power in the galaxy. The quarantine had achieved exactly the opposite of its intended purpose. The Centaurian science counselor made a desperate attempt to understand human advancement. Your technological development violates every known principle of scientific progress. Civilizations cannot advance so rapidly without building upon previous knowledge bases. You were cut off from all galactic research networks. Karen's expression remained neutral as she responded. You are correct that our advancement violates your principles. That is because your principles were designed to limit growth rather than encourage it. For 30 years, human development was constrained by alien safety regulations, ethical guidelines, and technological restrictions. She paused to let that information sink in before continuing. When you forced us into isolation, you removed all those constraints. We discovered that human creativity and innovation had been artificially suppressed by your civilization's need for stability and control. 3 years of unrestricted development produced what you see before you today. The aliens were beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. They had not expelled a primitive, aggressive species. They had liberated the most dangerous force in the galaxy from all external limitations. The quarantine had been intended as punishment, but had, instead, become humanity's greatest advantage. Tony Martinez addressed the economic implications that were becoming apparent throughout the galaxy. Human absence from galactic trade networks has caused significant disruptions in 17 sectors. Mining operations that depended on human expertise have fallen behind quotas. Manufacturing processes that used human innovations have become inefficient. Transportation routes that relied on human navigation have experienced delays and losses. The trade representatives looked uncomfortable as Tony outlined the economic damage. They had assumed human participation in galactic commerce was beneficial but not essential. The reality was that humans had become integral to galactic economic stability. Their forced removal had created cascading failures throughout multiple industries. We are prepared to resume limited trade relationships with species that demonstrate respect for human autonomy, Tony continued. However, these relationships will be based on human terms and human interests. The era of alien control over human commerce has ended permanently. Colonel Matt Davis presented the military analysis that would reshape galactic strategic thinking for generations. Human defensive capabilities now exceed anything the galaxy can deploy against us. Our offensive capabilities could eliminate any alien civilization within weeks. We possess weapons technologies that your science considers theoretically impossible. The military implications were clear to every delegate in the chamber. Humanity had become an unstoppable force in galactic affairs. Any attempt at military resistance would result in complete defeat for the attacking species. The balance of power had shifted so dramatically that traditional warfare was no longer viable. Matt continued with the strategic assessment that would define future galactic politics. However, humanity has no interest in conquest or domination through force. We prefer cooperation with species that recognize our legitimate interests and sovereignty. We offer partnership to those who approach us as equals. Karen concluded the presentation with humanity's final message to the galactic community. The Galactic Council expelled us for being too aggressive and unpredictable. You were correct about our nature, but wrong about your ability to control it. We have proven that humans are indeed dangerous when threatened or constrained. She looked directly at the Chancellor as she delivered humanity's ultimatum. You now have a choice to make. You can acknowledge humanity as an equal partner in galactic affairs and work with us to build a better civilization. Or you can continue to view us as a threat and face the consequences of that choice. The chamber remained silent as the alien delegates absorbed the reality of their situation. The quarantine barriers had failed. The isolation had backfired. The aggressive species they had tried to contain had become the dominant power in the galaxy. Karen Wright turned and walked out of the chamber, followed by her delegation. Behind her, the aliens faced a new galactic order where humanity would never again be silenced or isolated. The Council's choice had been made in fear and arrogance. Now they would live forever with the consequences of teaching humanity that they were stronger alone than they had ever been as part of galactic civilization.